Hello everybody, welcome back to the Advanced Vape channel. Today we're going to be doing a build on the Wotofo CONQUEROR. So I've been pretty excited about this. I really like this tank so far, and we'll go on and get into it. There's nothing really in the box. There's some cotton and some Kanthal that it came with. I don't care about the Kanthal. If you watch this channel, you know I don't ever use Kanthal. So I'm just going to ignore that and do my own thing. Today I think I'm going to put TRIBRAID in there, 28 gauge TRIBRAID stainless steel. I'll talk real quickly about the build deck. It's a postless style build deck. If I can get it off of here. So as you can see, there's two airflows in the middle here, and you got your positive posts down into the deck and the negatives on the other side. So the coils go like this, right over top of the airflow. And I haven't had any trouble fitting 3mm coils in there. You know, it looks like it's small, but it's fairly roomy. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to do 3mm diameter. And I'm going to go on and wrap these. I'll do 8 wraps. 28 TRIBRAID is pretty small, so when it actually goes to, you know, when you actually wrap it, it's fairly condensed. So as you can see, it's quite a bit smaller than 8 wraps of the vertebrae would be. Go on and set that to the side and do the other one. So because this doesn't have posts, I can't, you know, put the legs in there and then trim it on the other side. I have to pre-trim it and just try and get it to the right height. So I'm going to trim it to about this height. See how that works. And I'm going to take it off of here and loosen up the screws. I'm just going to use the little tool that came with the Griffin 25. For me, it's been kind of, I use it on everything now. One thing to be aware of is that these screws come out fairly easily. They can fall out. So just be aware of that. I'm going to get this ready to install. So I'm just going to put one in the positive, one in the negative. This can be a little bit tricky to install on. I may have to take it off of my jig. Okay, so I went on and put the first one in there. And now I'm going to trim the legs on the second one. I'm going to make them just a little bit longer. So it can be a little bit tricky to get the legs in there, especially trying to do it on camera, but it's not the hardest build deck to build on. It's not the easiest either, but it just requires a little bit of finagling to get it in there. Oh, one of those screws just fell out like I was talking about. Okay, so that's really hard to try and get in there on camera, so I just kind of did it off camera really fast, but it's basically, you just have to be careful the length that you pre-trim it to, and then it's just kind of finicky as far as getting it in there, especially with a delicate wire like this. It would probably be a lot easier if you're doing a thicker, firmer wire. but I got it installed. We'll see what it reads out at. .27. Okay, we're going to go on and zoom in and start firing. So just a couple quick points. You want to try and line up the coils as best you can with these slots. That's the wicking slots. And that can be a little bit difficult because there's nothing supporting the wire except its own legs. So like I was saying with firmer wire, that's not an issue. But for a softer wire like this, it can kind of move and flop around because the only support it has is the legs that it's standing on instead of having it connected to a post. So when you go to install the wick, you need to be gentle with it and make sure that you don't rustle it around too much. And I don't know if you could see during the beginning of the firing, there's a little bit of problem with it touching the airflow. And I think that there's enough room in the chimney for me to raise these coils up considerably, but I want to try and have it close to the airflow, so that's why I'm kind of running into those little bit of difficulties by having this chimney in the way. And that's probably just the way that I'm installing it more than the design of the tank. So I'm going to go on to wicking. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And like I was just saying, you want to try and be careful when you're wicking. I'm going to be using cotton bacon. And I'm going to try my best to get the cotton through there without disturbing it. Okay, so from this point on, wicking is really easy. I know it looks a little funky and it is pretty unusual, but it's not difficult. I'm just going to make a rough cut. And what I'm going to do is use these tweezers and just kind of brush at it and fluff it up. Now I'm going to make a final length cut. Right about there, we'll see how that looks. These scissors are getting dull, I need to resharpen them. And so all I'm going to do is basically push that cotton through those little channels. And lay it in there. So I don't have it packed in there, just kind of laid in front of those channels, and that's it. Alright, I think we're good to go. Not hard to wick at all. And I haven't had any problems at all with dry hits or leaking. And I've wicked it like that for every build that I've done in here. I'm going to go on and add juice. This is a max VG juice, so it'll be a good test of how fast it can wick. So, if you can see, there's threads here and threads here. And I'll talk about that in just a second, but when I go to actually put it on the top, it's these bottom threads that's catching on there, and that's what's sealing it in there. And then there's an inner chamber there with threads, and that raises up and down, and it catches the upper set of threads that I showed and raises up and down and does juice control that way, similar to the Alaria. So you just turn this segment right here to raise and lower the chimney. So I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's lowering down now. And now it's fully lowered. It's a design that I think works well. The only downside is that when you go to loosen it up, sometimes you can accidentally start to loosen up the top fill section instead. So you kind of have to get a good grip on it. So I'm going to actually take off the top cap part now that I have the chimney all the way down. And we'll fill it up. And just a quick note, these two windows, they both are showing the same tank, so it's not two separate juice areas, it's all the same area. Okay, we'll put our top cap back on. And raise the chimney up. You just got to make sure you have a firm grip on this part so that this part doesn't accidentally unscrew. I'm going to raise it up quite a bit because it's max VG. Of course, you've got your adjustable airflow here. I'm going to actually open this all the way. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit of leaking out the airflow because of how much juice I just primed it with. But other than that, once that burns off, I haven't seen any leaking from this tank, really. I'm going to have the airflow right open because unlike the Griffin 25 or the Griffin and that whole sort of tank, this is a pretty restrictive airflow. It's not mouth to lung kind of restrictive, although maybe if you turned it down all the way. I leave it wide open, and it's kind of restrictive, but it gives really good flavor doing that. So I'm going to put it at maybe 50, 58, somewhere around there. We'll try it out. So despite, or maybe because of that restrict airflow, it gives a really dense kind of flavor to it. And I've noticed that this tank really brings out flavors in juices that I don't get from the Griffin. You know, that real airy, high performance kind of thing. It's more restricted, it's more dense, a little bit warmer. And it's just a different experience with the same juice among this, you know, compared this with the Griffin or something like that. But I actually really like how it feels. It's a really smooth kind of airflow. There's no posts in the way. It's just the coils, air going past the coils and up the chimney, and it just feels smooth and fluid. I don't know how to describe it really. And it's keeping up wicking just fine on Max VG. Actually closed down the juice flow just a little bit. This is one of those tanks that, among all the ones that I've been comparing, I've been using this one, past reviewing it, I've just been using it. It's been in my daily rotation since I got it, and I really enjoy it. It gives me a different experience than something like the Griffin. It's a restricted down, dense flavor kind of thing. So probably not the same size clouds as something like the Tornado or the Griffin 25, but dense flavor and flexibility as far as what you put in there. It can fit bigger builds. Maybe not as big, obviously, as the Griffin 25, but I didn't have any problems fitting stuff in there. I've never had shorts from it coming above the deck section. So overall, I'm just happy with this tank. It's, you know, it was like $29 for authentic, and I mean, you just can't really go wrong with it. I haven't had any serious things where I say I just don't like this about the tank. They're all kind of minor things, like the screws can fall out, you know, not a huge deal. And it could be a little bit finicky, as you saw, for me to fit it on there, especially on camera. But, you know, once you have it set up in there, I left a build in there for days and days and days. Didn't rewick it, nothing like that. The cotton wasn't burned. It was just fine. So this is one of those tanks that you can kind of just build it once, leave it alone for a while, and it keeps on performing the same. I usually rebuild the Griffin 25 or the Griffin pretty often, and I haven't really done that with this. I'm just kind of happy with it. So that'll bring us to the end of the video about the Conqueror. If you like this video or our channel, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. If you have any comments or questions, leave it down below or send me an email.